So, we've dealt with the blood-brain barrier. It's now a 400-mile long lovely filter producing mineral water out of the blood. And then generally in the more traditional way, it's all sealed within this and it doesn't come out through the nerves. And how I see it is that the nerves are rivers. But in that, how is the environment protected as it comes out of the nerves? Well, for me, the nerves, the capillaries in the nerves have loose connections, so everything is coming out, including bacteria, viruses. And for me, unless the cranial fluid is flowing down the nerves, all of that will somehow flow into the central nervous system. So just having water flowing out down through the nerves, it actually protects it. If you just say, oh, it can't go out, then what is in the nerves can actually come in, because there is no barrier there. And also, I mean, they say, oh, it doesn't go down through the nerves, but the bottom third of the spine here, inside the dural membrane, is nerves. It's the horse's tail. The spine finishes there, and then it's nerves running down. What are they fed by? Cranial fluid is food, so it must flow into the nerves as it leaves. And then if it can flow into it there, then it can flow into it as it comes out through the dural membrane as well. So it just seems so many loopholes in how it's being described. It just does not make sense. And for the cranial nerves as well, a lot of those travel quite a way within the dural membrane. And the cells in them must be fed by something, and cranial fluid is food. It is, as well as for people working with it in healing and its water content, it is full of oxygen, it is full of glucose that this system works on. So in a way the cranial fluid must flow into the nerves inside the dural membrane, and then there's no reason it shouldn't carry on flowing down. But that produces the protection, is that the cranial fluid is flowing off down it. So my image of it is you've got a filter or two filters inside rather than a barrier. You've got two filters. You've got the filters in the choroplexus, you've got the filters around all of the capillaries. And then as it comes out, rather than thinking of as one solid nerve, within that there's millions or billions of little nerve capillaries, and they're surrounded by the myelinated glial cells. So here they are. This is the spinal cord. This is the central canal running down from the ventricles. Here it is coming out. So obviously cranial fluid can flow down there. It has to. And cranial fluid can flow in here. This is just an extension of the pia mater, which is porous. So cranial fluid can flow in down. And as it flows down the nerves, later on in the nerves, you've got a blood supply that doesn't have close connection. So all the things you don't want in the cranial fluid is kind of here. So this river flowing down stops that coming back in, because even though they say, oh, it doesn't go down this, there's no membrane, there's nothing to stop it in any way whatsoever. So, but here, what happens as soon as that, now maybe at this stage as well, when the myelinated glial cells get into nerves, rather than having a gap between each one, they come close, they push up to each other, so that in a way it's sealed. Each one, each capillary is sealed, and all of these connections into the myelinated glial cells are close connections. They will only let pure water through. So these are just, I don't know how many millions of miles if you stuck them together, of filter. So there's a filter coming in, producing cranial fluid. There's a thousands or billions or trillions, there's 100 billion neurons. No, 100 billion, 100 trillion, a lot. So there's a lot of these going out, and some of them are a metre long. So that makes quite a distance of filter. So you've got a 400 ml filter from the blood supply on the inside. And then as it comes out through the dural membrane here, you've got all of these lines of filters that act as capillaries and produce cranial fluid. You can watch the videos. The first video describes this in full, how they work. So it gives you a different image rather than a barrier, two barriers, and then inside the cranial fluids are divided. It's all one. It's protected by filters. It's protected by the flow down through the nerves, because between these myelinated capillaries running down, there is connective tissue with a blood supply to it, and if there's not a flow going down, then that can just seep back in. So it's protected by filters and flows rather than barriers, which gives a much nicer internal picture.